Lining up to see her. She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. There must be something that feels her. You found the beauty goes much deeper once you get to
playing Adopt Me, and when she went to go up to the bathroom, I took her iPad and I traded myself and I traded all her pets to my account. And by the way, I had traded all the pets to an alt account so that she wouldn't see them in my inventory. So soon enough, she came back from the bathroom and she had a meltdown. And she knew that it wasn't me because she knows that I wouldn't do something like that, and she saw my inventory. So then she goes running to her dad sobbing, telling him about it. And remind you, they are a really wealthy family. And then I was confused because he started screaming at her over these virtual pets. And then he said that part 2. So yeah, here he is screaming at her. And then he says this. We're just gonna call her Abby, but he says, Abby, I've spent probably over $1,000 on this game in the past year for you. And I was all confused. I was like, oh, wait a minute. This girl had her dad buy her pets? And she's just over there sobbing. And so he takes her iPad and throws it across the room. It didn't break, but this man's was furious. And I'm just standing in the corner of the room with my jaw literally on the ground. Because he's over here flipping out on her, and I had them in my inventory the whole time. And so, of course, I had to give them back to her, but oh my god, I was so scared, and they were both mad at me. So then, my parents got involved, because apparently it was a too far gone prank. So that's when things started to get just way too dramatic. So we stopped talking for a while, but luckily we talk again.
We are a pretty wealthy family and my dad has always loved cooking. He's a professional chef and he's finished university with a hospitality degree. He was going to open up a restaurant and it would be like a family business. He was going to sell like sandwiches and pizzas and fries and stuff, but he was struggling for a name. I said WAP as a joke for wraps and pizza and he loved it. He made renovation plans and I tried to talk him out of it so badly but he said no. So we are now launching the grand opening of our new restaurant WAP. One day we were on a field trip to school and I was sitting next to the horse girl named Beth. It was the most depressing ride ever because she kept neighing and making gallop noises with her shoes. I told her if she doesn't up then I'll stretch your neck so long you'll actually look like a horse. She started aggressively eating something and moaning so I looked at her to see her devouring the bus rat that runs across the floor. I started screaming and she was giggling and gobbling that rat like it was a McDonald's double quarter-pounder meal deal large with extra pickles and Sprite. There was blood everywhere and everyone was screaming and she started licking her fingers. I told the bus driver and he pulled over and called the police. It turns out she was mentally ill and she stays at a facility now. One time my brother got really sick with coronavirus. He was one of the severe cases and he had to stay in the hospital for a long time. My mom was taking pictures of him on the hospital bed and putting them on Facebook. I told her to make the caption WAP. She said what is that and I said it means wish and pray. She said that's perfect and she recorded a video of him violently coughing and posted it with this exact caption. WAP for my son's recovery. WAP that he can come home soon. And if you believe in God, WAP for yourself too. My aunt commented what WAP means and my mom replied saying wish and pray. Ever since my mom clarified its meaning all my relatives were spamming the Facebook comment section with WAP. She changed her bio to WAP as well. When I was in my room dancing to WAP, I heard someone knock on my door. I opened it and my mom started yelling at me saying what is this music that I'm listening to? I came up with something and I quickly said it's not what you think. It's called WAP and it stands for Women Are Powerful. She smiled and said period and then walked out. The song already ended long ago and I was still dancing in my room and I got a ding on my phone. It was a Facebook post notification. My mom put up a new post. I clicked it and it was a photo of her head edited on Cardi B and she captioned it. Did you know that WAP and women have always been WAP? We don't need no man to satisfy our needs because WAP. She then made a whole list of women she thought were powerful and she said here are some WAPs. All my cousins were commenting LMAO and LOL and she asked me why they thought it was funny. I said they're probably just a joke but my mom believed it. And she now ignores our cousins at family gatherings.
Story time about the bestiality children next door. If you don't know what bestiality is, hold on. So I was living in this neighborhood for 5 years. Throughout those 5 years, not one time did my family go and talk to the other neighbors. Why didn't we talk to the other neighbors? Because it's not like we were trying to make friends or anything. We didn't care for them. Well, one day, the neighbors' kids were playing outside while I was playing outside. My mom urged me to go over there and play with the other kids, even though I didn't really want to. So there was a little boy and a little girl. I went over there and I asked if I could pet their dog because they were playing with their dog. They said yes, and the dog started playing with me and started licking my face. Yeah, keep that in mind. Then we started talking about the bus because we ride the same bus. We have the same bus stop. After playing with them for a while, they invited me inside. I asked my mom if I could go. She said yes. So the little boy ran into his room, and then the little girl invited me to her room. So to pass time, I asked her what she does for fun. She said she plays with her brother. And then she asked if I liked animals. Obviously, I say yes, and so she asked to show me a trick. That's when she brings the dog into the room and proceeds to pull down her pants, like for part 2. This is part 2 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, she brings her dog into the room and pulls down her pants. Totally forgot a very crucial piece of information. I was in 5th grade at the time. That's why I did what I did in these next events. She pulls down her pants and lets the dog go at it. The same dog that licked my face previously. The dog, went for it. He knew what to do. The only words that I could form was ew. She had trained this dog to do that. So after I said ew, she immediately got up and put her pants up, and she was surprised that I was grossed out like any normal human being wouldn't be. Then out of nowhere, she starts crying, and I started feeling really bad, so I told her that I wouldn't tell anybody, and so she tells me I had to switch to my dog because my hamster wouldn't do it. Then she gets up and opens this drawer and proceeds to pull out a dead hamster. She says he wouldn't lick, he would only bite. She starts crying really hard and says she feels uncomfortable and she would feel better if I let the dog do what it did to her. As much as I didn't want to, I wanted her to feel comfortable, so I did it. This is part 3 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, I gave in. I didn't know how it was supposed to feel. It felt weird, but it didn't feel good. So I stopped and she started giggling and I just felt so uncomfortable, so I wanted to go home. Then she started acting like she was annoyed and started getting really mad at me. But I was like, whatever, and so she let me leave. Well, it was a Sunday that day and the next day we had to go to school, but she wasn't at the bus stop. And so I get on the bus and I go to school that day and everything is fine. Until halfway through the school day, my mom comes to pick me up early. She would never come to pick me up early for no reason. I would usually have an appointment and I would know about it before. I would know if I was going to leave school that day and was going to get picked up, but I wasn't notified. So my mom came to pick me up, and while we were on the way home, she said that my dad had stayed home from work that day, and when we got home, we were going to have a talk about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I promise you're going to want to like for part 4. This is part 4 of the bestiality children next door. Baby, that rhymed. Like I said, my mom is driving me home right now, and we're gonna have a talk when we get home with my dad about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I tried to explain myself to her in the car, but she wouldn't let me talk. She didn't want me to say anything until we got home. But when we got home, it wasn't just my dad sitting in the living room. The neighbors were there. The mom, dad, and the 2 kids. So I was like, is this a setup? And the neighbor's dad is fuming. As soon as I walked into the living room, he stood up and tried to get in my face. Mind you, I was in 5th grade. He did that in front of my parents. My parents told him to back up, obviously, but there was a lot of tension. When he was in my face, he was saying, how dare you force my daughter to do that with our own dog? That's when I knew what was going on. Basically, after I left my neighbor's house the day before, the daughter went up to the parents and told them that I showed her the trick with the dog and forced her to do it. But this is when things take a turn, babes. This is part 5 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, my neighbor's parents and their kids and my parents and I were all in my living room discussing about this dog situation. So I went ahead and explained myself that she was a liar and that nothing that's coming out of her mouth was true and that she was just lying and lying. And the neighbor's parents weren't too happy about the fact that I was calling their daughter a liar. Then the mom just lost it and started screaming at me and going at me and just saying all these mean, terrible things. It was almost as if she had a personal problem with me. Well, baby! So I started crying really hard once the neighbor's mom started yelling at me. I don't know what that did to the neighbor's daughter, but she folded. She said, I lied. I'll tell you guys the truth. She finally admitted that it was her idea and she's the one who introduced it to me. Then once her parents expressed their disapproval, this child, she says, I thought it was okay because I saw mom doing it when dad wasn't home.